Okay, so we have seen till now like what is object, how do you declare object, the different types of declaration of object, which is like object literals, which we create by using the curly braces, where you can just define a variable name, and inside that curly braces, we can define the properties using key and value pair. Inside object, we can also declare method. That also we have seen here. Then the second way is by using new keyword, which is like new object. So it is a way where we create an object in an object constructor way. So it basically known as an object constructor, where we create an object for using like new keyword without even creating class. We can create an object using new keyword in JavaScript. So that also we had gone through with, where we have created a variable called car, and then we have created an empty object. This basically use when we do not know like what kind of property we have to store inside an object at the time of creating an object, and later on we can store some of the values. This is also known as like dynamic creation of object. The third is known as constructor function, where we create a function, and then for that function we create an object using new keyword. So this is again similar in other programming language. If you see, it is similar to you create a class and then create a constructor using the class name. So here in JavaScript, we can create a constructor, create an object. In other programming languages, you create a class and then you can create an object using the class name. Whereas in JavaScript, it says that even though like you can create a function, and then for that you can create an object using the new keyword and can utilize that as an object. So this is what we have gone through. And the last way that we had seen in this previous session is by creating a class. So in general, like how do we create a class and then create an object to get the properties and method that we have declared inside a class. So we can see it, we have created a class. So how do we create a class in JavaScript? It is similar using a class keyword, and then you have to give the class name, and then to initialize any kind of argument or the parameter that we want to use, we have to use a constructor. So it is not like unlike like we have in Java, where we create a constructor using the class name, whereas in JavaScript, whenever we have to create a constructor, we just have to use a constructor keyword. And then you can also write methods, variables you can declare inside this, and so on. So let's say if you want to declare a variable called as or color equals to, let's say, red. So whenever we declare any variable or any method inside a class, right? So whenever you try to declare any method or any variable, either any method or any variable inside a class, it says that we do not have to use any keywords. So let's say if you declare the same keywords over here or same variable, if you try to declare over here, and you declare it as like, let's say, let color 1 equals to red. If you do not give any keyword, that means it will say like, could not find name color 1, did you mean color? That means it is saying, I don't know like where did you declare this color 1. But if you give like keywords, which is like let, var, or const, then it will identify that you are trying to declare a variable. Okay, so this is outside of the class. Whereas whenever you try to declare any variable inside the class and any method inside the class, this says that you don't have to use any keywords to declare a class variable and to declare a class method. You don't have to use even a function keyword over here. Okay, it will automatically identify inside a class that whatever you are trying to declare a variable, without keyword, it will accept. And here also without function, it will ask you to declare the methods and variable. Okay. And to access that, we know like we have to create an object for the class, and then using the dot operator like class, class car dot model, we can basically try to print, or if you just want to print the function, you can also, if you just want to call the function, you can also call the function using the class name. Now, another thing is like this is basically non-static, right? There is also a concept of static in class in JavaScript. So this is basically non-static, and we know that whenever we create either a method or variable without static, that will be part of class. And whenever a variable and a method is a part of class, then that particular variable and method we have to call, or we have to get the value by utilizing the object of the class. And what is then static? So static says that whenever you declare a method called as static, let's say example, whenever you declare a method using a static keyword is known as static method or static variable. So what is difference between non-static and static? So non-static method and non-static variable will be a part of class. And to access that outside of the class, you have to create an object. Whereas to access the static method and static variable outside of the class, you can directly use the class name and then dot operator, and then either you declare a method or variable that you can directly call. So let's say we are saying over here that console.log, and we are saying car stopped. Let's declare one more variable, which is known as static, and then let's say by year equals to 2024 example, right? We have also declared a variable which is non-static, which we have declared as color equals to red, and a static variable which is by year equals to 2024. Now, in other programming language, what happens is like whenever you use in Java, uh, you try to print this particular variable, which is like non-static and a part of class that you can access by creating an object. Now, if you want to access the static variable inside a class or a static method that we have declared inside a class, you can still be able to access by using the object. But Java will give you the warning saying that, okay, this is an static, you can directly call using the class name. Whereas it will not give you it will not throw you any kind of error. It will just give you the warning, and also it will be executed. That means you will be able to print the value. Whereas if you see in JavaScript, so we are trying to access like this non-static method. So we know that to access non-static variable method, we have to use a concept of object. So we have created an object over here, and that particular variable or object we are trying to use to access the non-static. Okay. In terms of static, what happens is, it says that you can directly use the class name. So the class name is car info, and then you can use directly by year. Okay, so let's try to execute this, and then we'll understand what I'm trying to say over here is, and what is the difference between accessing the static variable and method in between like Java and JavaScript. So you can see here we got like red as a color and 2024 as a by year, right? But if you try to access this using the object, if you are trying to access static variable using the object, in particular in Java, it will give you a warning. You will get an orange color over here saying that this is a static variable, and you can directly use using the class name. But at the time of execution, this will give you the result. Whereas if you see in JavaScript, it will basically say you undefined. That means it does not know that where is a by year. Where did you declare a by year? It does not know that. So this particular class does not know where did you declare a by year inside a class. So that means it is saying you that by using an object, you don't have to call static method or static property. Even though if you like try to call this stop method, it will again tell you that it is not defined. So you can say like stop is not a function. Class car dot stop it not a function. Whereas in Java, it will just give you an warning and will print you the value. Whereas if you directly use the class name to access the static method and properties, then it will give you the value, which is known as car stop. Now you might be wondering like why this is undefined. That means we are trying to call again the same variable, same method over here, and we are also trying to print the value. So we can directly call, which is known as car info dot stop. So if you try to do this, now you'll see like car stop. Now if you just here in terms of this, if you try to access using the object, then you'll see again it will say not defined, which is like class car dot stop is not defined, and for by year property, anyways, like we had seen, this was saying like undefined value. So this is the difference between like the static and non-static variable and method that we declare inside a class. Okay. So to access specifically static variable and static method inside a class, we have JavaScript enforces to use the class name itself, class name dot operator to access static, whereas non-static method, which you will see like not having static keyword, those we have to access using the object. Okay. This is basically properties of a class in JavaScript. Okay, so this was like fourth one, which is like class style of object. Yeah, sure. Now there is other thing, like the last one, to declare the object is known as factory functions. Okay. So what is factory functions? So factory function says that, or in what basically factory function says? Factory function says that whenever you see a function which will return you an object. Okay. So factory functions are basically one of a like the similar regular function, but it will return you an object. Okay. So let me give you the definition over here, which is like factory functions. Okay. So factory functions basically are the same functions, regular function that we declare, but it returns a function which returns an object or a new object is known as factory functions. Okay. Factory functions are basically used to create object. They are used to create object without using the new keyword. Okay. So what is meant by that? So when do we use new keyword? Whenever we go for creating either a class or we go for creating constructor way of object. Constructor way of object means either constructor function or we go for creating using the new object. So whenever we go for creating object using object function, object constructor or constructor function or class, then we basically use new keyword, right? Whereas factory function says that it is a function which will return you a new object. It will directly return you a new object. And we do not have to, like at the time of creating the object, we do not have to use new keyword. Okay. So this basically, this is one of the alternative to the constructor function that we have seen here. So here we had seen the constructor function, which basically creates a function. Here you can see like which basically creates a function using the function keyword, and it has given a name. And whatever the parameter that we wanted to define, we defined inside this parenthesis, and then that we declared using this keyword, right? So that means it says that whenever you use this keyword, you have to create an object. So that particular object, this keyword will represent, and whatever the value you provide at the time of creating an object, those value will be initialized for this variable. Okay. So let's say we have created over here a car, which is like Maruti. So this Maruti will go to the model, and this dot model will be stored as a Maruti over there. Okay. And then 2021 for year and 6 for seats. This is, we have defined like a hard-coded value. So this will be applicable for all the objects that we create. But whenever we are trying to give a parenthesis, whatever the parenthesis we try to give by using by creating a constructor function, then we have to use this keyword to initialize those values. Okay. Whereas factory function says that it will just return you a new object. It will return you a new object, and it is basically used to create a new object, which we do not have to use a new keyword to create an object. Now let's see what is the syntax for this. Okay. It also says like factory functions are used to create object without using the new keyword. Now what is the syntax for this? So syntax is, we have to declare a function with a function name. Let's say factory function. And then it will take a parameter, whatever the parameter it requires. It will take a parameter. Let's say param1, param2, and so on. And then we start the curly braces. Okay. So now in the other type of declaration of the object, we said that we have created a function with the function name and the parameter that we have to take. And then inside the curly braces, we have initialized the value. We tried to initialize the value or declare the values and variables, also functions. So we have just declared over here, right? But as per the definition of factory function, it says that it will return the object. It will basically return a new object. So here what we have to do is we have to return the object that we want to create. And what basically object is, if you see anything inside a curly braces using a key and value pair, then that will be called as an object in JavaScript. Okay. So this will return like this kind of things where this inside the curly braces, it will have a combination of key and value, and this will be considered as an object. And this method basically returning as an object. That is why it is known as a factory functions. We can also declare over here like method. We can also declare the method over here, which is, let's say, a method 1 colon function. And then we can give some kind of values inside. So we can see the difference between like constructor function and this factory function is factory function returns the value, and that will have key colon value pair, whereas constructor function or class constructor object or class object will have the value will be initiated using this dot model and using equal to operator. Okay. So then, okay, so understood, like, okay, factory function. What is factory function? What is the use case of this? In basically real time, what happens is like factory functions are very useful when we need a flexibility in basically like object creation. That means whenever we want to avoid using like this keyword and the new operator to create an object. Let's say if I do not want to use this keyword to initialize the object, initialize the variable, and we do not want new keywords to use that. Though we use like very less number of times this factory functions, but let's say if we do not want to, so if we do not want to use this keyword, to store the value, to initialize or store, to initialize the variable. At that point of time, we can use factory functions, which says that we do not have to use this keyword over here to initialize the value. You can directly give a key and value pair using a colon. Now, how do we create an object for this? So creation of object here is for factory functions. How do we create an object? So we will directly call the function name that we have defined over here, and then the argument that we have to give. So let's say argument 1, argument 2, and so on. Okay. And this, we know that this will return an object, so we have to store inside an object. So let's say obj equals to factory, and then whatever the value that you have to call from the keys, you can use object dot key to get the values. Okay, I hope this is clear. This is the syntax of basically creating an object in factory functions. Okay, so let's see an example for factory functions. How do we like declare an object using factory functions? Okay. Okay, so let's discuss one program that will complete the object generation in JavaScript. Let's say as per the syntax, it says that we have to create a function. So let's say we say like factory functions itself, factory function, and then it will take let's say model name of the car, year, or we can say like let's say name of the person, age of the person, and then city of the person. So these three things that we are trying to take as a parameter. Now we know that it will just return a value, right? It will just return an object. So to return an object, we have to use return. And then how do we create an object? We create an object inside the parenthesis, and that will be also in a key value. So we can directly use name colon name1, age colon age1, and city colon city. Okay. And also we have to separate all the variables that we are trying to initialize inside an object using comma. Okay, so this we have to do. And also let's say if we just want to print a method saying let's say or person, let's say info, you have to give a colon. So this became a variable name. Now you can give any variable name over here as well. Let's say name1, is1, whatever the variable name that you, it is not like either you can use the same parameter that you have used here as a variable name, or you can change the variable name as well. You can say like p name or person name. You can say again person age. You can also say like person city, any variable name that you can give. So this will be considered as a key, and this will be the value. Okay. And then the person info. So person info is one of a method, let's say a function, which will just print us a value saying that it's a console.log, and the like values of all the values that we are trying to return. Basically, the properties of the person that we want to print it out. So whenever we have to print over here, at that point of time, we have to use this keyword. We do not have to use to store the value using the this keyword, but we have to use this keyword to access, because this function does not know like where is person name, person age, person city. It is outside of the function. It has been declared. So to access the variable outside of the function here, we have to use this keyword. And this keyword will have an understanding of the object that we'll be creating for this particular function. Okay. I hope this is clear till now.
Yes, Praveen.
Okay. For you?
Yes,
Able to understand?
yes.
Okay. So now here, what we'll be creating is we'll have to. So now we have created a variable, which is like person name, person age, person city, and we have also created a method which is trying to print us the value. Right. Now we have to how do we access these like variables and methods that we have written inside a function, and this function is returning us a value. So for that, we just have to call the function name. We do not have to use new operator or new keyword to create an object here in terms of factory function, because you can directly call the function name and then provide the arguments over here. So let's say John age is 30 and city is, let's say, New York. Example. Now this says that I'm also returning you an object. So this will create an object using this property, and it says that I'm trying to um, provide you an object over here, returning you an object. So we have to cast that object as well. So let's say it says that person, let's say persons. I've just declared a variable over here, and we are trying to create an object. So whenever you see a factory function which is returning an object, we do not have to use new keyword over here to create an object. Okay. So we basically do not require new keyword to be used at the time of creating an object. Now, how do we access like the properties of this, like whatever whatever the property that we have defined, and how do we access the method that we have defined over here? It is again having the same accessibility, which is like, let's say, persons dot, you can use whatever you want to access. Let's say person name, then person city, example. So we have to use a dot operator to get the value. And now to call the methods, we can directly use persons dot person info. Okay. And then give a symbol of a parenthesis, which basically denotes like it is a method. And if you try to execute the code now, do we have anything which is stopping us here? Let's start. If you see, like this has given us a value as John in terms of this one, person dot person name. This is like the city. And then this is calling the functions that we have declared to print the value of the person, the complete value of person, which is like John, age is 30, and city is New York. Okay. So this is what the factory function is, and creation of object in a factory function way. And these are the ways where we create an object in JavaScript. Okay. So this was like object literal, object constructor, object literal where we directly initialize inside curly braces, object constructor where we use like new object, constructor function where we use again new, and then the function name that we use over here. Class style is again create an object using the class name, and factory functions, it will return you the object. It will return you and your object. Okay. So these are different ways where we can declare an object in JavaScript. Okay. So is there any questions in terms of object? How do we declare object? If you have not gone through, like if you people have not gone through in terms of practicing and all, I'll suggest you just practice whatever we have discussed here, so that it will give you an understanding and a confidence that how do we declare objects in JavaScript. Okay. So with this, we'll complete the JavaScript over here, and there is a left out things of the class that we'll discuss at the time of generating the frameworks. Whenever we go for generating the frameworks, we basically require a class. At that point of time, we can discuss like in detail. We can discuss like how do we create class in JavaScript and how do we use inheritance concept. But in general, this is one of the concept where we say like how do we create a class in JavaScript. Okay. So this was all about the objects that we create in JavaScript. Okay.